Greetings, everyone. My name is Stephen Neely. I'm your co-host for the virtual Dalcroze meetup, and it's the first meetup of the new season. So we are excited to have everybody together. We're testing out a new time. So on the East Coast, this is morning for us, with the hope that maybe more of our European and more distant friends will have an easier time of jumping in to this hour. So we're going to put it into the mix. It looks like we're already off to a good start with a nice crowd of people. And welcome. I hope you've had a wonderful summer, which is actually a little bit of the point of today's meetup. But before we get to that, we get to tell everybody that's here, there's a link in the chat that'll get you to the agenda. Today is meetup number 74. We've done 74 of these, and people keep showing. So I think we're doing okay. Our tradition since the very beginning has been to introduce yourself. So what we're going to do is throw everybody into 2 or 3 breakout rooms right now. Let's go with 3. 3 breakout rooms. And when you get to the breakout room, if you're willing, we'd love it if you would just tell everybody there your name, where are you located, and who do you teach? Or who do you maybe teach, or who do you work with, or you can say something similar. But who are your where are you located? What's your name, and who do you teach? And we will be back in 2 minutes. It's very fast. Get it ready. Here you go. Ready, set, and go. Hey, welcome back, everyone. And so good to see you. Hey, Manuel, it's so good to see everyone. We have a nice little crowd here. Before we get into the content of the day, you can check your agenda, but for the people joining us remotely, or rather after the fact, we got all sorts of exciting things coming up. This is a new season. There's lots of new plans that happened over the summer. And coming up, we want to remind you to subscribe to our calendar and to the mailing list if you weren't already. But if you subscribe to the calendar, you will see all the amazing events that are coming up, and it will automatically adjust them to your time zone, so you'll know always when things are happening and when they fit for you. A new thing that we're trying, that we've planned for hopefully the next couple years, is something called Dalcroze Essentials. And so the Dalcroze Essentials is a short course series, but they're extra short courses. They're just 3 sessions each, where we are asking colleagues, master teachers from far and wide, to talk with us about some aspect of Dalcroze work that is sort of like, this is basic work, foundational work, essential work. And so the very first one is our dear friend Joan Pope in Australia, and she's doing a 3-session short course on creating sequences of lessons. And if you haven't met Joan Pope, you have to go watch any of her past things with the meetup. She has all the amazing energy. She's absolutely world famous in Dalcroze circles as one of the most dynamic and vibrant people that we know. So definitely try to catch Joan Pope for the 3 Fridays in September, starting on the 13th. So it's coming up just 10 days from now. Still plenty of time to join in. After that, the first masterclass of the season is with Jacqueline Van, a very famous Dalcroze teacher in England, a diplome, and we're really thrilled to be working with her. That's at the end of the month, September 28 or 29, depending on where you are. The next Dalcroze Essentials is with our very own co-founder and co-host Emma Shubin, who will be doing something about private lessons. Emma, do you want to say a word?
Oh, I'm just thrilled to talk to all these wonderful teachers that are already signed up about how to use some of our basic Dalcroze principles in a private lesson, but also how we can ignite the idea of movement and creativity as part of the process of music making, which we know we have to move to play our instruments, but how we can even create a more welcoming environment for that and use some of those skills to better our students' progress and help them improvise and learn new things, et cetera, et cetera. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're really excited to feature Emma in this way. The Dalcroze strategies, of course, are traditionally or most commonly always offered in groups. And so for there to be some ways to think about, well, how about, but I'm a private teacher and getting all my kids together is kind of tricky sometimes, but I see them every week one-on-one. How can I get more of these ideas and principles into the work? And Emma's going to be great for that. After that, in October, we have Sachiko Morinaka from Japan, which is a name that I bet not everybody knows. And if you're not part of the Japan crowd, you maybe haven't worked with Sachiko. I've known her for many years. She's a tremendous musician, and a real student of the work. And so we're just thrilled to be featuring her in October. In November, the next Dalcroze Essentials is with Andrew Davidson, a new diplome who lives and works in the south of England. And his is titled Thinking, Making, and Doing Dalcroze. So stay tuned for the blurb that goes with that. But Andrew is going to be sharing what he believes are some foundational philosophies or ideas in the work over those 3 sessions. And then our last one for this season is with Jerison Lee from Singapore, another amazing teacher. He's part of the teacher training group that works in Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, Singapore. He's part of that faculty and is another just dynamic teacher, and he'll be doing a masterclass in November. So there's so much coming up, and we're so thrilled with these invitations because those of us everywhere else have a chance to meet new teachers without having to buy a plane ticket. And so that's that. You can register online. Today, I don't know, Veronica, are you up for saying hi or?
Hello, yes. Can you guys hear me? Is this mask on?
We can. You're a little bit quiet, but we can hear you.
How about this? Is this
Oh,
better?
way better.
Oh, okay. Cool. Sorry. Hello, everybody. My first time having COVID. It's been a while that I've escaped it. Um, so we have a few friends here today who were part of some summer training this past summer, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Um, and at the VDM, we are trying to um, give voices to lots of people in our community. And so um, we want to hear from people what it was like to study and kind of, I don't know, I'm actually curious. We gave them a pretty open invitation to talk about any reflections that they have about learning in this way, or what it was like to be in the training course, or what they learned about themselves or about music. So we'll see what they share. My friend Maria here was part of the Tufts program. And Maria, is your friend able to make it or coming a little bit later?
She may be coming later. I haven't confirmed, but
No worries.
she has the link and everything.
Yeah, yes, it's crazy early for her because she's on the West Coast. And then Anne was a student in the Carnegie Mellon program. And so we're going to give you 5 minutes. Maybe Emma, could I ask you to be the timekeeper in case I have to step away? So Emma will give you a 1-minute warning, and we'll hear first from Maria, and then Anne, and then Susan if she comes, and then Chris, um, and and then we'll have a discussion afterwards.
Very good. Maria, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. So yes, I'm Maria, originally from Colorado, living in Newport, Rhode Island. That's where I'm stationed with the Navy band. I made the decision to do the summer intensive with the Dalcroze Institute in New England. It was a very natural decision, and I've taken it once before, 8 years ago. So I was stationed overseas, took a complete break from Dalcroze, and after a year of being here in New England, I reconnected with my former mentors, Aiko and Adriana, she's here. And I just asked, like, how do I restart this work? I know it's a part of my soul. It's something that connects me, plugs me into like the big capital WY of like why I still make music. But I had taken such a big break, I didn't quite know where to begin. And then I had this little voice come to me. It was just like, begin anywhere, just show up. And our summer institute here was right in the middle of my Boston Navy Week. It's a big promotional thing for the Navy. So I was half in my uniform, half barefoot, Like they just made it work, and I attended as much as I could, and I realized there's never going to be a perfect time, like to perfectly progress with this work. You literally just show up. So in all my humanity, in my sailor uniform, I pieced together enough time physically at the institute, and I was so proud that I passed my level 2 exams. And I mean, it's just so humbling, and I think what the difference from when I took the Summer Institute back in 2016 to now is I think some of my military discipline has helped. With Dalcroze, as we know, you can't hide. No, you have to, like, every vulnerability is like laid right on the floor, right at the piano. And I showed up differently to the work, even with the little practice time that I had. I was surprised at how much came back to me. I was surprised that, like, I can not be a great singer and still pass. Like, people can recognize your effort. I scoop real bad when I sing, and that's my project for this winter. But it was so beautiful to just show up and do my best. And my passion for Dalcroze was just brewing, and then this was the year that it, like, came back up, and I was called to really restart the certificate process in a more active way. So my summer experience was fabulous. It was busy and imperfect, and I still showed up to the best of my ability, and that was what was important. I had also attended Jeremy's work, his Summer Institute 11 years ago in Colorado, and that was divine. That's all I had to do for that, chunk of the summer. And now that life's a little busier, I'm not always going to have that full chunk, but I'm so in awe of the work, and I have so much reverence for it, and I realize that you just have to dive and fit your life around it, because it's there for the taking. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Maria, let's just say again where you were studying. So this is at Tufts with Eiko and Adriana and Melissa. This is the program that was for many years at Longy that Lisa Parker sort of helped make famous. And so we are thrilled to have representation from that school this summer. And we know if anybody hasn't had a chance to meet Eiko and Adriana and that whole team, they are some of the best of the best. We encourage everybody to find their way to that program and meet those teachers. And there's a rumor that Eiko's going to join the VDM for a thing someday. It's rumoring, so I think there's nothing can't share the insider information, but we'll just say there's conversations. So we're looking forward to that. Maria, what do you play?
I play the flute.
This is so funny. There are 4 flutists on the call today. So very good. So good.
Yes.
But it's where it's all at. I mean, if everybody else just was cool, they would also play the flute. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Who did we say was second? Anne, I think.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? All right. Good morning. I'm Anne Epperly, and I am also a military flutist. I just retired last year from the Air Force. I was stationed with the Air Force Heritage of America Band for most of my career. And I first discovered Eurythmics at the Hampton Roads Flute Fair. And I cannot remember who the clinician was, but I was so taken with the work that especially when I started to look into music education as my future career, I sought out opportunities and found the Dalcroze workshop at CMU. I tried my schedule would not allow me to do the full 3 weeks the first time, so I did the 1 week version, which I highly recommend for people who aren't sure. If people aren't sure about it, they want to check it out. It's a great way to learn how it works and get more involved. And then I came back this year for the 3-week program. Some things that I really enjoyed there, if I'm counting right, I believe we have 4 faculty members there, and they all rotate all of the classes, so you get exposed to lots of different styles of teaching, which I really enjoyed because it helps you learn that there's no one way to do things, and you can find the things that speak to you to take into your own practice. So I really appreciated that, and it was a lot of fun. We were talking in the break room about about piano improv, and I find that rather intimidating, and I thought Leslie really made it so approachable and friendly, and made me feel like I too can play the piano in class. So those were some things I really enjoyed. Also really just enjoy the community and the welcoming environment that the practice sets up for us. It lends itself to making friends and connections. I think those were the bulk of my notes. Does anybody have any questions about the CMU program?
We're going to talk, so as soon as everybody's had a little chance to share, we will all have a nice conversation where we can hopefully, ask all the questions and sort of, share a little bit more. Anne was with us here at Carnegie Mellon. I'm actually in one of the classrooms right now. The Carnegie Mellon program has a core Dalcroze faculty of 4 plus 3 or so affiliate faculty who help with things like Alexander technique and the basic movement practice and folk dance and all of that. So it's a nice big faculty, which has been one of our strong arms. The Carnegie Mellon Marta Sanchez Dalcroze Training Center is a proud partner of the VDM, and we've been sort of partnering from the very beginning to make that happen. And it was wonderful to have Anne here this summer. I think next, are we up to Chris? Because we had one other name, but they're not here right now. So this is Chris Rose, who's a longtime friend of the VDM and did interesting things. Chris has studied, I want to seed it by saying Chris has spent multiple summers in multiple places. He's kind of done the tour of different times and got his next little check off on his little scorecard by going to Canada this summer. Tell us about Canada, Chris, and anything else.
Hey everybody, so I teach undergrads here in Vermont in my studio right now. I get to teach a bunch of different stuff. I play piano, I play trumpet and all of the ensembles. So I'm kind of a Swiss Army knife in this little music department. But even though I get to teach Dalcroze, I don't get to do it during the year. Maybe you can relate to that. The free time that I had this year happened to coincide with the dates of the Dalcroze Canada workshop, which happens in Montreal. And hi, Selma, great to see you. And I was excited to do it because, first of all, it's close to Vermont, so I could drive. Everybody says Montreal rocks, good food, beautiful spot. And man, I just got to say, if you haven't been with any of the Dalcroze Canada people, there's such a tight-knit little community. But they all come from this massive country. Maybe you don't realize if you're American, but there are other big countries in the world. And I mean, people are coming from Vancouver, they're coming from Nova Scotia. They're all coming to this little workshop, smaller than what I'm used to at CMU, but just such a supportive family. And just to get to bear witness to that was probably my favorite part. The workshop structure is just the way I was used to. Eurythmics in the morning, solfege, long lunch, go try to order something in French, good luck. And then some improvisation after lunch, and then a bigger conversation with the multiple levels of people. I would say most of the students are interested in getting a credential, so I seemed strange to them. I already have my certificate, and I was just there to take the class. And most of them couldn't understand why anyone would do that. But I bet a lot of you can relate. I think Maria just mentioned, and to this idea of reverence, of connecting us to the why. I get to teach music all year. I play it as much as I can. But to really give myself that treat of 10 days of just being a student and barefoot and I'm clapping, it just makes me feel like a kid again. And I feel so lucky to get to do that. So happy to answer any questions about why I did it, what I experienced. But, I think I'll leave it there for now. Thanks for listening.
Very nice. Look at us, a nice crowd of 13 and so many familiar faces. And I'm so pleased that we were able to get representation of at least 3 different programs. In Canada, it's Louise Mathieu and Cheng Feng. And I'm missing at least one more.
Francoise Lombard.
Oh, of course, Francoise Lombard. And then I'm sure they also have, some auxiliary faculty are helping, make everything happen. These are all names that we've worked with at the VDM. And, like all the names that have been said so far, are all names that are internationally recognized. These are all historic programs, and we're just thrilled to do anything as the VDM, anything we can to help keep the names out and get people, considering about the summer work. I loved Maria's statement that just said there's never a perfect time. There's never just like, there's never a perfect time where all the stars are just going to perfectly align, and you can have all the money and you can have all the time and you don't have to be anywhere else and there's nowhere else, no matter what, to do anything this deep, like this sort of substantial, it just is it's going to be a compromise and a sacrifice. And so sometimes you just have to, like she said, just kind of show up and jump in. I just want to add one thing to what Chris just said, and then I want everybody else that's not me to ask questions and talk. Chris just sort of highlighted that he was showing up to training for maybe a slightly different reason than some other people were. All the reasons are valid. Of course, he wasn't saying anything different. But there is this sort of common, at least in the States, a common assumption that the main reason you would show up is to get a credential. And I just want to say, I don't think that needs to be true. So I think the credentials are great for the people that they're great for. And if that helps you organize your life, or that gives you the right piece of paper, my little pieces of paper have been very helpful in my career over the years. I'm all for little pieces of paper hanging on the wall. But I also think that I always want to champion the idea, though, that the first reason we show up is just for our own personal musicianship. Even if the piece of paper is really your goal, it would be, actually, our experience is that people have trouble getting the piece of paper if the first reason they're showing up isn't for their own personal musicianship. And so that's an agenda I push as often as I can. And then it's extremely acceptable to show up and not want to take exams, not want to jump into that, or not want to do it this year. I'm going to wait another year or two. We've had students at CMU show up for 6 years running. It's not the goal that they're after. They're really just trying to grow themselves. And I think keeping that in the center has just proven to be really healthy and productive and useful. And so just in case anybody's watching the video after, I want to make sure that we've made that statement. I believe, and this is just a Stephen Neely belief, but I believe we do the work first just to grow as musicians and to build deeper connections, and that things like credentials of the certificate or the license, or making the big trip to Geneva for the diploma, those are all sort of second. Really important, but second. So we've got about half an hour that we can. What do you want to I know everybody. I think everybody in this room has studied at various training centers at different times. So I don't know if someone else would like to offer up a word about another training center, or ask a question specifically about, well, what made Canada different. Chris, I think you've also studied in Boston, haven't you, at some point in the past?
I only did a 1-day workshop in Boston, but I have done New York, and I have done Rockies, and I've done a lot of Pittsburgh. And yeah, maybe I'd just kick it off by saying it's interesting to find out how hard you believe some things. I believe a bunch of Pittsburgh specific things. And I didn't know that until I got to Canada, and they said it a different way. And I was like, whoa, you can't say it like that. Oh, wait. All right. Let me hold, So a lot of hold my tongue moments, and they were great learning moments. Maybe people can relate.
I tell my university students that if you've only ever taken Eurythmics with Stephen Neely, then you don't know the difference between Neely and Dalcroze. Like you don't, There's no way for you to know the difference. How much of this is a Stephen Neely thing and how much of this is the root of the work. And so as much as I can, I encourage my summer students and definitely my through the year undergraduate students to meet as many new teachers as they can. Go away, go find people, go get in workshops, attend the VDM master classes, get in the conversations, because every time you meet a new teacher, you start what I believe then what's in common is the root of the work. And then things that are not in common, you can think, well, is that somebody else's flair, somebody else's style? But what's in common between all these teachers, that to me sort of remains as the obvious, this is the work. And then look at all the ways you can embolden the work with flair. We got lots of flair over here. Who else? Yeah, Christine, and welcome.
Hi, so glad to see everybody again. I just wanted to say, yeah, I've never had the opportunity to study Dalcroze in America at all or any other place. I just studied in Europe, in Italy, and but we had several different teachers and all very, very excellent teachers. But you know, speaking about the piece of paper, you know, just the difference in people, like you said, if you want to get the piece of paper, that's great. But there is really a difference, at least it was for me when I did just summer courses and seminars, that they were such joyful experiences, you know, and when it was trying to earn the piece of paper for me, it was extremely stressful. And I mean, I would come out in tears many, many times. You know, also the piano was very intimidating for me too. And Italian pianist, to get your degree in piano in Italy is extremely difficult. They are so advanced, you know, and of course everybody in my class was a pianist except me. So I'm a singer. So it was really, really hard. And our teachers are very good, but there's just something about Italy where it's just, I don't know, it's just not the same as when, that's why I'm so happy when I come onto these groups, because you just transmit just some kind of positive energy that I don't always feel here. Just it's just a bit more intimidating where in Italy. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just, they're just very, very serious. They're very, very serious about it all, which is good, but it can sometimes. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And then I wanted to ask you, Emma, about the course that you're teaching, because I don't teach individual lessons. I teach groups. I teach children now. I have my piece of paper now. I do teach a lot. And but I have friends here in Italy who teach violin in a Suzuki school, but they're actually very interested in, you know, I talk a lot about Dalcroze and stuff, and they're very interested in it. So I'll if I tell them about, they would be able to participate, even though they have never really studied Dalcroze.
It's my hope, actually, is that we'll have a lot
Okay.
looking for tools for their lessons. I'm a Suzuki flute teacher, so
Oh, great. Uh-huh.
a lot of my experiences will come from applying Dalcroze within a Suzuki style lesson.
Uh-huh.
I think that the discovery-based way that we do things in the Dalcroze classroom lends itself really well to a Suzuki style lesson. I think the thing that we as Dalcrozians do extra well, though, is like discovering ways for the student to be the teacher and the leader in the paradigm, which
Yeah.
I would say is still very traditional about, like, you do as I do and you model after me. But then every Suzuki teacher who works with really young kids will resonate with the idea of like finding ways for the student to discover whether it's a new type, a new way of having a better relationship with the posture of the instrument, or how they understand the meter of a piece, or how they hear different parts of what they're internalizing and learning by ear, et cetera, et cetera. And then how to take some of the games we do and really help kids as they're trying to develop. It can be very instrument specific, but there's definitely sequencing that we do in our Dalcroze world that work really well for kind of the traditional way of making sure that you are ushering your private lesson student along well enough that they get their instrument technique, but they also have their literacy in the lesson of like how to read music and what's going to be expected of them as a traditional violinist, flutist, pianist out there in the world. What are they gonna have to know when they're out there swimming around with other instrumentalists of their same age and ability group? So I think we have really great ways of becoming more creative in our private lessons. And even if we're in a tiny 10 by 10 room, great movement pieces can happen and it can still be through the body. Anyways.
Super.
Good. Well, I'll tell them, they're American too, so they'll be able to follow very easily. So I'll tell them about it. Sounds really interesting. Thank you.
Very,
Christine,
very
I
good.
just wanted to
Veronica?
thank you because thank you, Christine, because I think that also helps us know that there was this question like, do you have to have Dalcroze experience to take Emma's course? And actually, the answer is a big no. But it's good for that you asked because now we can include that information as we publicize it. So thank you for
Okay.
helping us.
Very nice. Juicy, we know you've been studying in England, is that right? You've been part of that group.
Yes,
Um,
a while.
you wanna tell us a little bit how that's been?
I actually wanted to, related to what Chris said and Christine as well, credentials and seriousness. I just want to hook on those 2 points. I did my certificate, and basically as I was finishing my certificate, they started a license group. The problem with the UK, Dalcroze UK way of structuring courses is that it's not an institution, so it's a charity that organizes courses. So all these people are doing other things. So to have a group, viable group to, I don't know, for a license, you need to ensure that you have enough certificates and that is not always possible because people drop in and out. So I was very lucky that as I finished my certificate, a license course was starting immediately. And I mean, my certificate was quite, I would say, tragic, but it was quite hard to complete. Also, I live in Luxembourg, so I was traveling to the UK monthly, and then of course I have a job, I have a family, and negotiating all of these things was quite difficult. But then I asked myself whether I would be able to cope with the license course, which is of course much more challenging. And I realized that quite apart from the credentials that I need the piece of paper, but I need that level of depth and ongoing work with the group, because that is what I enjoyed during my certificate. That is the thing that made my Dalcroze experience something that I can't live without. So in that year gap between the certificate when I was trying to finish my exams and I was alone, I really suffered not having my village around. And now with the license group, I have my village back. And now, of course, the training is finished, so I'm back to square one. But now I've got about 20 million exams to finish. So there is no way I'm going to start a new training soon. But yeah, it's... I realized that although the credentials are very important, the level, the depth of work that you do when you do ongoing training is what I need. And I did muse whether I should do, there is the opportunity in summer courses, and you could fill your year with courses, but I really wanted to do the regular work with the same people and really get to that regular sort of attendance. Yeah, I don't know how to say it in English, but yeah, so that's my experience.
It's wonderful. It took me 9 years to get my license, and most of that was piano work.
Thank you. That's very reassuring.
Yeah. Most of that was that. Those were back in the old days, though, where there was no handbook and there was no like prescribed anything. You just had to keep showing up. And then someday Marta Sanchez would approach you from behind and she'd tap you on the shoulder and she'd say, I think you should take the exams this summer. She would say, like, that was how it worked back then. There was no protocol that was published anywhere. It drove my wife insane. She's like, just do it. And I was like, it doesn't work that way. You can't, like, there's no sign up. But nowadays, a lot of the programs do have, I don't know if it's quite a sign up, but they have a much more transparent process. And there's been a lot of good that comes out of that. So, and then just to sort of jump on the idea of some schools or some cultures maybe feel more serious or more strict or more whatever. That maybe has to do with, maybe in the case of Italy, it really is like a country thing, but we definitely know that just individual teachers carry different weights with them. And so, which I think is one of the reasons why it's really great to meet a variety of teachers and why sometimes people jump schools. And so, we've had some students who start at Carnegie Mellon but finish somewhere else. And I'm sure the flip-flop of that has happened at different times. And we've had lots of students, fly in from other countries and, to do the work. And so I think finding, not just knowing that there's something in the root of the work that speaks to you, is a super first step, and then figuring out who you're going to really camp out with. If you're going to do exams, if you're not going to do examinations, if you're not trying to do certificates, well, then just keep meeting everybody. And you should just bounce around and do that. And then if you get to a part, my advice is if you get to the point where you think, no, I would like a credential, well, then it's really helpful to have a team that you feel you trust and that trusts you and has your back and is encouraging you, because it really can be grueling. It's just so many things, and no one understands outside of the small circle how hard it is and how many things we're trying to do. And so it's such a benefit. I really think nearly a requirement that whoever you're doing your work with, you just really feel like you're on the same page with them. And so, and if you haven't found those people yet, come to all the master classes, and you can start there by auditioning all those people, by how they carry themselves on the screen, and then you can buy your tickets. We still have a little bit of time. Selma. I'm sorry, Veronica.
Well, no, I just saw Manuel had a hand up.
Yep. So Manuel, and then Selma, and then Maria.
Oh, hi. Good evening, everybody from over here in Vietnam. Well, talking about credentials and about the importance of having them. I mean, I believe it's I think it's very important. I like mine now that I have them, because it really helped me to open doors. Because, well, I was in Mexico, then Vietnam, well, then Canada, and then Vietnam, and I've been able to get several job offers from different places in the world, which I couldn't have without the credentials. However, that wasn't my goal at first. At first, my goal was not to get a master's. I didn't even care about a license. I didn't know I was going to get a license when I started my studies in Dalcroze. I just began doing them, and they were really fun. And I began doing them and just continued until I got my license, and then I got master's. And I think it's a wonderful thing. Right after I got my license, they opened up a group in Geneva called the post-license group, which is basically to just go, and whoever has a license or a master's degree, you can just go and have the experience that you had as a student there, because it's so important to still have that experience. Right now, it's so lonely over here because I don't get to do any lessons with anybody. I mean, I get to have them with my students, but I don't get to experience other than online. But it's a really difficult. I think it's a difficult thing. Like Juicy said, you need your village. And if you don't have that village, which is your Dalcroze people, then it's important. You have no idea how much I ran just to get to this meeting today, because I really, really wanted to talk to Dalcroze people, because you're the ones who get it. Nobody else does. Even if they say, no, we know it's important, we know it's a thing, what you're doing in the classroom is so great, they don't get it. They really, really don't. So it's I think it's very important for us to meet and to find out how we are making sure that them the ones who are not really into Dalcroze understand what we are doing and how we are spreading the word. So it's just wanted to say that, yeah, it's really, really great to see everybody here.
And we are thrilled to work with Manuel as well, who has done a masterclass for us and continues to be a great colleague in Vietnam of all places. So good. I think we said Selma.
I didn't get here on time because I thought it was at 8:45. Sorry about that. So I missed all the people I would have liked to hear. I was especially interested in getting there in time to hear Maria because she was in our course, the entrepreneurial course a few months ago. So this is just perfect for me today. And I really want to sort of say in line with what Manuel just said, that it's fascinating to be with this kind of discussion because you realize that there are things that only Dalcroze people know and lots of other people don't know. And because I do, I'm not a Dalcroze person, you have to understand that. I'm an outsider, but I've studied a lot, starting a long time ago with a variety of people. And I was lucky to study here in Canada in the years when Donald Hymes and Elizabeth Morton were both teaching. They are people who had incredible backgrounds and also musicianship. So I am fascinated that this discussion is for the first time I think I've ever heard about credentials and is so openly so. I have never heard people talking about these things in this way practically before, even though I've met so many people and listened so diligently to many conversations about the practice of Dalcroze work. It's an area that is very murky and that I'm having immediately right now a lot of difficulty knowing how to write about for some writing that I'm doing for a book on Dalcroze practice that is, we hope, coming out next year. It's a book of collected writings by different people. But because the topic of credentials is not very well known at all, except to people who are going for them, who then find out and who then learn what is all involved. I have to say, I'm at a disadvantage because I was blissfully ignorant of this topic as an outsider in all those years in classes and experiences that I had, where I was watching what people were doing or I was participating, but I wasn't thinking about credentials. So suddenly I've needed to try to find out about the history of these credentials a lot more. And it's not easy, let me tell you. I actually want to pose a question quickly. It's a question about the licence, because the licence is almost undocumented in the written materials about Dalcroze work that are more accessible, such as Le Rythme, and that's the journal, say, or books about my people. I was quite surprised to see Marie-Laure Bachmann, who was the director of the Institut Jacques Dalcroze, said in an interview with John Habron James in about 2015, she mentioned that when she was doing her studies, she was intermingling her studies of psychology at the University of Geneva with her Dalcroze work, which had gone way back to childhood, but later was taking her into a territory with Claire-Lise Dutoit. They were working in the territory of I think they called it psychomotor re-education, but it was an applied area. she said that at the time she was doing her work, there wasn't a licence yet. And this was in the 60s. So I thought, oh, that's interesting, because that explains why I can't find things about it in all those earlier decades of source material that I've been reading. So the licence apparently is not something that goes back to the certificate and the whole history of certification. The certificate began long ago. The first certification was really given at Hellerau in the early teens. But there was the first diplome. It was called diplome. The first group of people who got those were given them in 1909, even before Hellerau. And that represented the top level at that time. That was the person who could teach teachers. So that included, I actually met one of them, Suzanne Perrotet. She was one of the first to receive that. And it was based on a jury exam that included like 7 or 8 high ranking sort of music people from Europe. But the big program at Hellerau is where 2 levels of certification came into play. And at that point, there was one level, which was a sort of basic certification, which meant that people could teach children, but they could not say they were teaching the Dalcroze work as such. They could teach it in a kindergarten or in a school. And then there was the higher level, which was a different certification that meant they were able to be out there. They could teach in conservatories and they could teach courses called Dalcroze courses. And so that's kind of clear in the literature. But what isn't really clear is when did the licence come into being and where and why? I can't really answer that question. I'm really curious if anyone knows, because it's something I urgently need to know soon for the writing I'm doing to try to explain this stuff to people. And I also, well, if anybody does know, I'd be really glad to hear about it.
Adriana and I might have some insights. Adriana, why don't you go ahead? Because I think you actually may know more than I do.
So from at Longy was a license program, maybe more than 35 years ago. Could have been that it was before, but in Lisa Parker's program, she was training also people for license. Maybe in 1994, excuse me, 1994 or 1995. And that degree of license at the time, it was also a master program, a master in Dalcroze Eurythmics at Longy, which existed but doesn't give you the certificate. For certificate, you had to pass other things besides the masters. And license, I think it started 1994, 1993, something like this. As I remember, and that was a credential that, of course, you had to get after the certification. You had to work or to apply or start working for the license after you taught at the certification level for at least 2 years. You were not permitted in the license program before. So you had to have the experience of teaching kids. Sometimes Lisa waived that depending on the experience of the teachers who joined, because if they are music teachers, even before the certificate, you didn't need the experience anyway. And that was a credential that allowed the licensee, so the person who got the license, to teach at college level. With the certificate, you couldn't. To teach graduate or undergraduate courses in eurythmics, solfege, or improvisation, or pedagogy, whatever it is. That's what I know about the license at Longy.
Very good. Hi, Juicy. And then Maria had a hand up. I want to make sure she gets to say hi before we're all done today.
I was Selma, did you talk to Karen Greenhead about this?
I have in the past,
Yeah.
but at that time when I didn't know as much as I've later learned about the
Okay.
whole sort of range of certificates
Yeah.
and of times that they came into existence.
Because
And
she may know because I remember talking to her because I was puzzled, for example, by the fact that I'm doing the license in the UK, but in Geneva they do not have the license, they have the master, and they do not coincide. So we had the whole long conversation where she went back and explained things to me, which of course I only understood part of it, but she may well be able also to point you to someone who, well, she may well know it or point you to someone. But she is very knowledgeable about, because of the DAEB thing, she is aware of all the programs and how they sort of fit in with one another.
Manuel?
That's a
If
great
I-
idea.
yes,
Ask her.
I was actually one of the last cohorts of the licence in Geneva. After me, after our generation, I think it was like 2 or 3 more cohorts, and then because they were, oh no, actually, we were the last ones, because the next one that was coming behind us was the one that was changing into masters. That's actually how I got my masters, because they changed the program, and then they changed the name. So I was getting a lot licence, but I was doing all the contents for the masters, because they were transitioning into HEM, the Haute École de Musique. So they were getting into the Geneva Conservatory, and so that was when they made all these changes in the program to make the licence match the master's program. But the first generation of licence in Geneva, that I don't know, but I know people who definitely know. So contact me later. I can hook you up with the information.
The big difference, I mean, those recent changes in Geneva had everything to do with the Bologna Agreement and the different sort of European Union rules, and they needed to get all the post-secondary programs to align in a way that made sense to the money pushers. If they wanted funding to come to them, then they had to get in line. And so there wasn't a thing in the rest of Europe called a license. There were, however, master's degrees that were recognized. And so if they could change it into a master's degree, then all of a sudden they could get the money that they had been receiving. But if they didn't change, they were going to lose that money, because the new rules said everybody had to have a master's degree in order to get in line for the money. The diploma is still not recognized by the EU or any of those educational things. The diploma is kind of just like you're in the club, and so we'll give you a diploma. If you jump through all the right testing. But I think this question of the early history and when did it begin is really fascinating, and I haven't thought about that. This was the 49th summer at Carnegie Mellon. 1967 was our first summer, and I'm going to now go back to the early publications and see how early the word license appears on the flyers. We have a good bit of that, Selma. I'll go look and see what I can see how early it was mentioned. We have just 3 minutes left, and we can keep on going. Maria, you did have a hand up at one point. Do you even remember what you were going to say?
It's kind of perfect. It's like it's a closing thought, almost like a warm fuzzy. Yeah, and thank you. This discussion is so fascinating. Just to hear some of the history that I know nothing about. I'm just showing up, kind of a brand new Dalcrozian to a certain extent, and it's wonderful. I think it's fascinating. So thank you, Selma. You're such a wealth of knowledge. One thing I forgot to say in my initial presentation about the summer, when you guys are talking about how it takes a village, we need our people. I have in a WhatsApp group my other level 2 peeps, a Chinese American woman an Israeli woman, and a Japanese woman. And these ladies are like we're real close now. And we're still messaging each other like, look at this tetrachord chart. Like, what? You know, it's I have like people who get it, and it's just beautiful, you know, and to be to have embarked on this again with like I knew Emma when I was 18 years old, and she's the one who kind of led me to Longi. And then Adriana was my first Dalcroze teacher. And then I took a big break, and then Veronica was like my cheerleader when I was like, what's a do-do-do scale? And she got me started to get to it. Like, this work isn't meant to be done, as we all know. You can't do it alone. It's too intimidating alone. And I'm just so grateful to have like my people. And this is my first VDM meeting, and I can't wait for more. So that was just it was like the village
Very
follow-up.
nice. So good, and it really is a wonderful cap off to it. Everyone, we're so thrilled to have gotten such a nice crowd at this new hour. I think we are gonna try to make sure this is part of the regular rotation. We've never just chosen 1 hour because we know whatever hour we choose, somebody's asleep on the other side of the world, and so we've experimented with some different times, but this is a whole new time slot for us, and today it feels great. And I'm even awake instead of being all groggy in the middle of the night like we are some of the times for us who are hosting. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks for contributing. If you haven't, please subscribe to the calendar. It's the easiest way to know when everything is and when it matches your time zone. I look forward to seeing everybody at the next at Joan Pope's short course. Thanks all.